Alrighty, we are back for another exciting edition of Cloverleaf, COVIDleaf Radio. I'm the host of the most, the king of the quarantine, Jimmy Falcon, and we are back with another exciting guest. This one is very exciting. She is a very talented piano player, but you may know her best as also being the music director as well as a piano player on the legendary US and UK game show, Whose Line Is It Anyway? It's an honor to welcome the multi-talented Laura Hall to the show. How are you, Laura?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be on the show.
Well, how's everything been for you in the last year with COVID? And I know that at least to my knowledge, Whose Line, the reboot, the restaging, however they put that, is still on. How has things been for you?
Well, like everyone, all live performance just shut down entirely. And in fact, my husband and I teach and perform improv, and we were up in Seattle and Portland and Canada, and we basically closed down everything, including Canada,
Oh my goodness.
last spring. They all closed down right behind us. And we had all these bookings over the summer. But anyway, like everyone else, we adapted primarily to Zoom. So we've been teaching and doing improv on Zoom, which has been so interesting. But boy, do I miss live performance. I just miss it so much. I mean, I know we've had to adapt, and everyone has in all different ways. But man, I miss a live audience.
Oh, I'm sure it's got to be, especially for you guys that are out there all the time in front of a live crowd, especially one that's as ecstatic and excited as the Who's Line crowd, to just be not without that, especially as long as you have been a part of that show. It's amazing to think about the whole world just shutting down for a year, and that's sadly what happened.
Yeah, it is. It's really crazy. And again, like I know a lot of people, obviously we're not the only ones, but the whole world closed down. But yeah, especially for improv, I think, because improv is so much about the connection between the players and then from the players with the audience. And, trying to have that connection with your fellow players on Zoom, for example, is just a lot more challenging.
Yeah, I was not the world's greatest student. I have ADD, ADHD, and I do not think there would be any chance in heck that I would be able to sit through a Zoom being a child.
Oh, yeah, for kids. Oh, my gosh. Yeah. Yeah, we were teaching improv mostly with adults, although I did work with a high school group. But yeah, for them to be on Zoom for like 4 or 5 hours a day doing regular classes, I don't know how they did it, and I don't know how the parents did it.
Oh, yeah, I think I almost feel like it was probably harder on the parents because my girlfriend is a teacher. She teaches music at a Montessori school here in Central Illinois, and I feel like it hit the teachers the hardest. I don't know if it was because they had to be at home with the kids so much, and maybe couldn't. Well, of course, they couldn't do the kind of teaching that was needed from the actual
Right.
public school system. But I mean, the parents, they rock and rolled this last year. Big props to the parents.
Oh, yeah, I'll bet. And the other thing that happened was that both my husband and I, after spending a few months of just eating, drinking, and sleeping too much, we decided that we had to like do some creative projects on our own that we could do at home.
Mm-hmm.
So he started a podcast, which he had been talking about doing for over a year.
Nice.
And I started working on some videos, some teaching videos for how to learn how to do what I do on Whose Line for the musician side of improv, which I had also thought about doing and just never had the time for. And I was like, if I'm going to spend some time learning how to do something new, because there was a big learning curve with learning how to use the camera and all that. It's like, if I'm going to do this, is the time to do it rather than feeling sorry for myself I should make use of this creative time. And so that's what I did. And actually, the videos are almost done and getting ready to come out at the end of the month.
That is so cool. I think it's been awesome how literally everyone who has any kind of hobby or a fun thing they like to do can have a podcast about it now. It's blown up so much that you can literally podcast about sewing or book collecting
Yeah.
or interview Laura Hall. I mean, you can do whatever you want.
I love it too. And I think um, it opens up sort of the individuality both of the listeners and of the people doing the podcast. And I think it's just so fantastic. Like it is a way for us to be connected.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And going to Whose Line, I guess all the skits that I've seen on all the episodes of Whose Line make me laugh, make the audience laugh, especially the hoedowns and the Irish drinking song, which you of course have a lot to be a big part of. Being that the show is so funny and popular, do you have a certain skit that you remember as being hilarious, maybe versus some of the others?
Oh my gosh, there's a lot of good ones. You know, and the funny thing is, I'll just say this: people oftentimes are like, "Oh, do you remember this episode with that?" Nope, nope. Most of it I don't remember. I don't even remember it at the end of the night. What we did in the beginning of the night,
Oh my goodness.
because while we're doing it, I'm so focused. I'm so in it. If we're improvising a song, I'm thinking about, is it ready to? Especially like a game like Greatest Hits. Are we headed to
Oh
the end?
yes.
Is there going to be a bridge? Does he want to do another verse? How There's so much going on that it almost doesn't register as funny. Do you know what I mean?
Oh my
Because
gosh. No, I have
super
no idea. I think it's all hilarious. But I mean, being
well.
that you're such a big part of it and have been, and it takes so much to do what you guys do, I could see how it could be taxing. And at the end of the day, it's just kind of, becomes part of a job.
Well, I don't even mean it like that, that like it's taxing, because I love doing it. It's that like you're in this one moment and then you let go of it and go on to the next one.
Okay.
So it's like part of it is to just like you let go of what you just did 30 seconds ago because now you have to be in this moment. So, but then when I watch them afterwards, I'll be like, I laugh my butt off just like anyone else. But while we're doing them, it sort of becomes this weird blur. Okay, all that being said, I think some of my favorites were Richard Simmons, just because he freaks the guys out so much.
So
He
funny.
was so all over the place. I also really loved when Robin Williams was on and we did
Yeah.
that big old gospel number. I don't know if you remember that.
Oh,
He
of
ran out
course.
in the audience and he was, laying on hands and doing the whole thing. And his energy was really fantastic. I also really loved, and this is kind of an obscure one, but Sid Caesar was the guest.
Oh wow.
And yeah, and the younger Drew went out ahead of time and went, okay, for you young people, this is who Sid Caesar is, right? He like basically invented television,
Right.
And Sid came out and he was a million years old, but he was so funny and so sweet and such a gentleman. Like he was an old school gentleman, charming, sweet, lovely. It was as much that I enjoyed meeting him personally as that what he did was really funny.
Yeah, I'm only 32, so I definitely don't remember his heyday, but I've definitely seen and read about his work with like Imogene Coca and a lot of other great classic comedians of that day. He was very funny.
Right. Right. Yeah, I don't remember his work either. I'm not that old, but I did know who he was most definitely, and
Absolutely.
sort of his contribution to the world. Really, without his show, there wouldn't have been SNL in a way, because they were doing Sid Caesar. They were doing live TV, which is amazing. And what's really funny is when we started doing Whose Line, people would be like, "Oh, it's Friday night. Don't you have to be at work?" And it was like, we're not doing live TV. And even though it's improvised, it's not, you know what I mean? It's not.
It's live studio audience,
yeah.
I guess.
Yeah. But people would literally be like, "Oh yeah, it's Friday. It's almost 8. You need to be at work."
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, one moment that I remember, it sticks in my head that you might not, since you mentioned that, but I'm going to ask it anyway. When your piano sped up during the Howard Village People style skit, if you do remember, what in the world happened?
Oh, I do remember that, and that's the one that most people remember, like my biggest mess up. Okay, so the drums for that were coming out of my keyboard, right? So, like, it had a drum loop, you know, that you could hit start, and then you could play along with the loop, right? So Linda and I were playing along with it. That keyboard had a little tiny button on it that said ACC, and I never knew what that button was, and I'd never used it, and I accidentally bumped it while I was playing. No. And ACC stood for accelerate. And I had no idea. Like, I didn't know it was there. I didn't know how it happened. When Drew asked what happened, I was just like I just had to turn the keyboard off. I didn't know how to stop it. And he's like, when he asked what happened, I genuinely had no idea what I did. Oh,
your face was priceless. You're like, I don't know. I'm so sorry.
The best part, though, my very favorite part was, you know, it's speeding up, and I'm looking over at Linda, and I'm looking around, and I'm trying to figure it out, and I look up, and Colin is trying to dance so fast, right? Like they had those dance moves that were groovy, and then as it's going faster and faster, he looked like he was going to, like, explode trying to keep up with the tempo on it.
I think that of all the people I've talked to, Colin Mockery is usually the fan favorite out of the cast members.
Oh yes, he's definitely my favorite.
I feel like I'm more compelled to like Ryan Stiles because I'm 6'4" and he's just a tall guy.
Ah, there you go. There you go.
You also, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just going to say the whole cast is really lovely, you know, and we get on quite well. It's funny because sometimes people are like, "Oh, dish the dirt." I'm like, there really isn't any. The only dirt I can dish is that Ryan really does hate doing the hoedown. That's about it.
Oh. Well, you have done so much. If my memory serves right, you started around with the Groundlings early in Chicago.
No, it was Second City. Groundlings is LA. Yeah, it was Second City in Chicago.
I felt good about that, and then there you go. I just blew it out of the water. But Second City, Del Close, the legendary Chicago improv group. You also have done some authoring as well. What compelled you to write The Improv Comedy Musician, The Ultimate Guide to Playing Music with an Improv Group?
Well, it really was because I found that there was so much instruction out there for teaching people how to do the acting and singing side of it. And there was just very little instruction for doing the musician side of it. Plus, the musician, there's usually one musician. There's, 6 actors, one musician. So you don't even have the chance to sort of learn from your peers the same way. So, it grew out of that. And then actually after doing that, people are like, oh, we wish you could do examples and go deeper in. And that was what then inspired the video series that I'm doing. So it kind of all came out of like a need, a want for something that just wasn't there,
Very interesting. I think, everything I've read that you have done just mesmerizes the heck out of me. I love talking to these good homegrown Illinois stock. It's always nice to have a reminder that we have some good things going on in this state.
There you go. That's right. I'm a Chicago girl through and through.
That's awesome. Do you make it back very much?
We do, although, obviously not during COVID, but
right.
We normally go probably 3 or 4 times a year because all our family is there. My family's in the Chicago area, and my husband Rick's family is down kind of near Springfield.